From KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. More Colorado ranchers are using satellite technology to manage their livestock across vast, rugged landscapes without having to put up miles and miles of physical fence. Virtual fencing uses GPS-enabled collars to allow ranchers to guide their cattle and keep them within invisible boundaries using a mobile phone or computer. Ranchers who use the virtual fencing say it's relatively cheap and helps them keep tabs on their herds. And it may help ranchers coexist with wolves and other predators. So, are ranch hands and fence posts endangered in the West? To find out, we spoke with Tracy Ross of the Colorado Sun. She interviewed several ranchers and wrote about why the technology appeals to them.
Physical fencing has existed for as long as ranching has existed in the West. For obvious reasons, you need it to keep your livestock contained within a certain area. But it is very, very expensive and time-consuming and labor-intensive to keep fencing up, to put it up, to fix it. And it can be bad for wildlife as well. So that's one of the big impetus behind ranchers turning to virtual fencing away from physical fencing.
So walk us through how this virtual fencing works. What exactly can ranchers see and control from their phones?
It is actually so cool, Erin. It has made its way onto ranches all over Colorado. But what I explored when I went out onto the West Slope around Loma and DeBeck and profiled a rancher from High Lonesome Ranch was this new technology that uses satellites. And this particular ranch where they're using it is 300 square miles.
Wow.
So what this technology does is it allows them to manage their cattle on these huge, huge pieces of land from their cell phone, like you said. And they can literally be like in Las Vegas at a Tyler Childers concert jamming out and move a fence by like drawing some lines on their touch screen.
Incredible. You wrote about how farmers can draw these virtual boundaries on a map. How do the collars that the livestock wear keep the animals inside those boundaries?
Yeah, so these collars, I believe they're like somewhere between like 5 pounds and 2 pounds. And they are apparently really comfortable. I actually got to feel one and it wasn't scratchy. It didn't poke. And they use these teeny solar panels on the tops of the collars. So the part of the collar that points toward the sun.
Right.
And then there are 2 places where a noise goes up into the cow's ear, right?
Oh.
So that's sort of the first signal that a cow gets. If it approaches the fence and it's coming really close to the fence, they'll get a signal on one of these sides of their ears. And if they get a sound in the left ear, that will sort of tell them to turn right to move away from the fence.
Okay.
If they get a sound in the right ear, it'll tell them to move left. And then if neither of those work, they'll get a slight shock. And it's also been described to me as like a pulse. I didn't put the collar on to get the shock myself. But apparently, over and over.
You weren't going that far for the story.
No, and I'm sorry to anyone who wants me to go that far. But over and over, ranchers insisted that these shocks do not hurt the cows. And I guess if you have, dogs that use shock collars, you can probably vouch for that yourself. It's not like something that's going to knock them out like a taser. It's just like, wake up and move away from the fence.
What's interesting, too, is that this virtual fencing can be helpful for land conservation. You interviewed Lloyd Calvert, who's the manager of High Lonesome Ranch near DeBeck on the Western Slope. And they do something called regenerative ranching, meaning he tries to restore or protect the natural habitat on that ranch. How does virtual fencing help with that?
Yes. So there's a perception out there among some groups that ranchers are out just like destroying the land everywhere they go, like they're grazing the land down to dust. And I've interviewed a lot of ranchers in Colorado and have heard otherwise, and that is that they're trying to be really conscientious about rotational grazing. So they'll graze their cattle in one spot for a little while, then they'll move them so that that land can then rebound. And then by the time they're back, the land is ready to be grazed again.
Right.
The way that the fencing works is they can draw rectangles, they can draw triangles, they can draw all kinds of different shapes on their phone with these fences, right? So like if there's, a wetland or riparian area that is getting hit a little harder that really needs to be protected, they can fence that in without having to move the cattle completely off that area.
Now, Tracy, many Colorado ranchers worry about wolf attacks on their herds. How are ranchers using this technology to help reduce the risk from wolves?
So I want to start talking about this with a little bit of a caveat. So Lloyd Calvert is the only rancher that I've talked to who has specifically spoken about using this brand new technology with the satellite stuff to sort of think about how he might keep predators out of his herds, okay?
Gotcha.
So when we're talking about predators here, it could be bears, it could be mountain lions, but we were sort of focusing mostly on wolves in our conversation. And what he said is these collars and this data and this system is so amazing because it's real-time information. And I know Colorado Parks and Wildlife have said that a wolf's collar can ping up to the satellite and say where it is. But by the time they get the data, it's like an hour old or 4 hours old or something like that. So it's not actually where the wolves are at, as one of the Parks and Wildlife biologists said at the last commission meeting. But with this technology, Lloyd said that he can be watching his cattle in real time, and they can start exhibiting a behavior that tells him that they're panicking or they're bunching up together. And this behavior can tell him that there's a predator in the area. And the predator can be within that fencing. And that can tell him get out there right now, find out what's going on. And no matter what is happening, you have a better ability to protect your herds based on this technology.
One of the ranchers you spoke with said the cost for him was around $24,000 a year, around $100 per cow. But compared to the cost of hiring a ranch worker, this was more affordable. Tracy, is this satellite fence technology a job killer for ranch hands?
That's so funny that you asked that because, of course, I asked that same thing, too. And he was adamant that, no, it's not. Because at least on the High Lonesome Ranch, they're still out there, moving cows with horses. The cowboy is not going to go away because of this technology. They still need to be out on the land. You have to still get out there and put your eyes on them. And on these big, huge allotments like this one, 300 square miles, you still need the human on the horse out there or on the ATV or in the truck to be out, making sure there's water for them and moving them around and actually having that tactile contact with their livestock.
Colorado Sun reporter Tracy Ross wrote about why some ranchers are turning to virtual fencing. We'll have a link to her story in our show notes and at KUNC.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.